honestly, they've looked better than anybody would have expected. And I think 3 weeks of consistently good play will slow down or stop a lot of the questions about how good are they really. Out the gate, Gragas again retains that incredibly high pick ban percentage. Rise and Kalista to follow.
Now, I wonder, will we see a Maokai ban away from Steve? He's played it in the last 3 games, and the Hecarim he did play got pretty much camped and shut down altogether. So it has been a bit of a high priority pick for ROCCAT, and Werlyb on the other side of things has been making a name for himself on multiple champions now.
Definitely the case. Alistar still available, something that Vander has played amongst other champions, and we're seeing Echo banned out again. And stress, this seems to be a blue side ban.
Yes.
So team's not feeling it's first pick worthy.
Well, yeah, it's not first pick worthy. It has tricky matchups, and you don't want to just allow the red side to last pick it, because it is quite powerful in the correct matchups. But if you don't get a favorable matchup, it is almost no point in picking it. So unlike the Rise, it's certainly not a blue side pick. Not
this time round anyway. Werlyb has played Gnar twice, Jax once, Maokai once, Steve Maokai as well. Junglers have taken a bit of a hit. I wonder if we're going to see a maybe first pick Evelyn, considering Rek'Sai and Gragas are off the table. Sejuani, not really super popular at the moment.
So if ROCCAT don't pick the Evelyn here, Giants, I would expect, would early rotate it, because they have favored that when the other junglers have not been available. But it will be the Alistar you mentioned picked up first. This time Vander is going to pick that up for himself. He did play it once before, went 5-2 and 13 on Alistar, so certainly has been a very diverse support player when you look at it. He's played a lot of different types of champions, but honestly, it's been one of the components of why Woolite has been doing so well early, is just the duo laning from Woolite and Vander has been a lot better than we've seen before.
There's so many debates you can have around playing a different champion every single game. You know, is it the team comp? Is it the opponent? Is it because nothing's working for you? I guess those are the questions. It depends very much on your perspective. But something that is very confident is the Evelyn. Has been locked in for Frederick. GODFRED currently undefeated on Morgana, as we alluded to. 3-0 with a 70% kill participation. You heard him talk about roaming, and he's locked that Morgana in once more.
100% win rate for Frederick on Evelyn as well. So very strong pickups if you are a Giants fan, as their record does speak for itself on those two champions. 2-0 on that Evelyn. So what does that leave for ROCCAT now from the jungle? What will they opt for? Will they go for the Sejuani on Jankos, or will he go towards the Lee Sin? That's the other champion that we've seen Jankos playing when both Rek'Sai and Gragas were not available. So certainly he's made his name felt once again as that first Bloodmaster.
We'll find out what they decide. They have 15 seconds left, stress. Both of these teams really taking their time during this picks and bans phase. And truthfully, until this moment, not a whole lot had been given away. Woolite will most likely be running that Kog'Maw's AD carry, something that he has run to mixed results, depending on, again, on your opinion. His back timing has been problematic on some champions, and he's definitely been caught on many. But Nukeduck, the only win ROCCAT secured is when he was playing that Azir.
That is very true, but that is a fair scaling duo that have been picked up by ROCCAT here. They are going to need some time to get themselves into this game, very much like the Unicorns in the last game, but that time never arrived, and actually fairly similarly to that, Giants have been one of the more active early game teams. In week 1 it punished them, in week 2 the Giants cleaned up a lot of their early game kills and got a lot for themselves. I wonder, now that Kog'Maw's off the table, I doubt Giants will go for that that heavy poke composition, but Ezreal could kind of signify that Giants are looking towards at least some kind of a poke/sieging composition we saw in last week's game.
Yeah, we'll have to take a step back and see what they decide to lock in. It is the Varus Ezreal combination. We've seen Varus played quite a fair amount actually coming out of the Asian regions, but that Kog'Maw doubly effective did obviously deny that from PePiiNeRO.
Everything about this setup other than the Varus is exactly the same that they ran in last week's game against SK, where they looked very good with this poke composition. Now it's a Varus substituting him for the Kog'Maw. Jax was the final piece of the puzzle, and I believe that was actually run into the Rumble as well last week. So if they lock that in, you know that Werlyb is going to look for Jax from the top lane.
You are 100% correct. Freddy played the Rumble, went 1-4-4. Werlyb, on the other hand, 8-1-1. Werlyb will have the opportunity to face Steve's Rumble. This will be the first time Steve's playing that champion, and the Lee Sin, as you predicted many picks ago, Stress. ROCCAT have got sort of early to mid top laner and jungle, definitely mid to late AD carries and mids.
Yeah, Steve opted for Rumble instead of the Maokai, was available at this point, so clearly wants himself something that can assist ROCCAT in the mid game and in team fights around objectives, because that's one thing you don't really want to do all that much around a poking composition, is sit around or on objectives. Not only can they just poke you down if you started it and are doing slow objectives like Dragon and not completely rushing it down, they can also get into areas around the Dragon very easily. Now that you've got a Rumble, you can kind of force them into a fight a little bit easier. And Giants, they've locked in the Jacks. The pieces of the puzzle are complete, and they are running the same style composition as we saw them take SK to pieces with last week.
Yeah, and something we do have to highlight, we actually reviewed the Giants versus SK game during the week in the office with Deficio and Crepo and Sharks and Pyro and the whole team, and this 4-1 team composition from Giants works at its best. When Varus and Ezreal wave clearing, they can peel backwards with the Morgana and just let Jax pull aggression, but we need to see whether or not he can have the same strong early start that he got against SK with an early kill, with an early itemization to help beat that Rumble in lane.
Yeah, this time it might be a little bit trickier for Giants. Varus doesn't have quite as much range as Kog'Maw does once Kog'Maw has that upgraded, but at this point, ROCCAT have a fair composition when it comes to getting into fights against this lineup from Giants. If they can get there with a good Azir ultimate, a good Rumble ultimate, then Giants, quite frankly, won't have the time to poke down ROCCAT.
Well, I'm going to be looking at Jankos' Lee Sin to see whether or not he can jump into their backline, whether or not he can find probably the Varus before that Ezreal. But again, interesting team compositions, and again, interesting growth from Giants. You're about to see the champions on your screen in a moment. Giants, who found all that success at the end of the spring split with heavy aggression, they did the same in week 1, and then now they're doing these poke comps. Hashtag ROC win, hashtag GIA win. Who do you feel has the advantage? The mostly Polish or the mostly Spanish? Jump on Twitter and let us know.
Mostly, yeah, mostly. Would have been earlier in the year if there hadn't been change-ups, but honestly, I feel like the change-ups for both of these teams has started to level both up. GODFRED certainly, I would say, is having a major impact in the Giants lineup, and it's too early to tell yet, but are we perhaps going to have to rename the Kasing effect to the GODFRED effect for the summer split?
Well, if they place 3rd in the summer split
okay,
and look to do well in the regional qualifiers, you know what, I think that's fair. However, we'll have to see what GODFRED can do. And also Frederick, on this Evelyn, really having a great performance. Look at his Evelyn stats and KDA in contrast to the league average. Slightly higher kill participation, but my word, that KDA is extremely impressive.
Very impressive. And honestly, I think the Giants as a whole have been fairly impressive. But as I said, I think this is going to be a real test for Giants. And a lot of people underestimate ROCCAT. But honestly, in the last couple of weeks, their ability to get a lead has been very impressive to me. Against Fnatic, they were doing very well in the early game, got themselves a lead. They did the same against the Unicorns last week, but just couldn't close the game out for themselves. Now ROCCAT have to learn how to finish the game as well as get a lead.
We'll see if ROCCAT have learned. They're going to have a tough time, especially against the carries of PePiiNeRO and Adryh, because yes, PePiiNeRO is the shining light of Giants. However, Adryh's AD carry performances have been really quite exceptional, and for their respective roles, PePiiNeRO and Adryh are actually dealing the 2nd highest amount of percentage damage for mid and AD carry across all 10. Contrast that to Nukeduck and Woolite, who are 8th lowest. So it really is night and day between the respective carries. The thing that's also very interesting to me, on the side of ROCCAT, Woolite is dealing a higher percentage of his team's damage than Nukeduck. And that's surprising considering all of the negativity is really focused on Woolite and how he handles himself in those team fights.
He certainly does a lot for ROCCAT, just it isn't always in the positive direction for the team, but certainly he has shored up a lot of it. It just, when you get to the late game, he started to, or continued to be a little risky with his positioning. But speaking of risky, Frederick, off a single buff.
This happened last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, is heading into the top lane. And again, Steve is the one everybody is focusing.
He's been stunned, he's been counter-striked. Steve will befall the same fate that Freddy fell last week. And actually with that death, Steve now has 28 deaths, the highest in the league. Freddy is the second highest with 27 for top laners. But the exact same thing happened. I just feel that's poor scouting.
I mean, Giants are basically running exactly the same composition, and their early game seems to be exactly the same kind of plan. So, as you said, I'm not sure what ROCCAT did with regards to watching the start of that SK game again, but that's something they should have been aware of.
So, Frederick, we showed the graphic, we showed his level of impact. He's already got first blood.
Oh no. Steve.
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Steve.
Don't do it, dude. Oh, this is scary. Steve is going to be able to walk away.
He's checking, at least. He's doing his due diligence, but he is only level 1, so has to check with Q. Flash in the bottom lane, though.
So we do see Vander. He's caught GODFRED. The black shield is up. He lands the binding onto Jankos. He's trying to get away, but the follow-up resonating strike will secure a kill on the board for ROCCAT, and it lands in the hands of Woolite. So ROCCAT, they show they have some bite and some fight. Knock GODFRED down a peg.
Nice return play from ROCCAT in the bottom lane. As you said, GODFRED just didn't have time to react with the black shield before they managed to get that engaged. But a lot of summoners we used down there heal on both AD carries, both flashes and both ignites. So that is pretty much the bottom lane done for a couple of minutes.
Stress. Frederick has been hanging out in this top lane. He may as well pitch a tent.
But look at the effect it's having right now. 5 CS on Rumble because Steve is petrified that something like that was happening. And he was right to be afraid. But it has cost him CS in this early, and yes, he's been able to get experience, but honestly, you need to stop a Jax farming. You can't just let him sit up there and get the wave in the position that he wants like this, so that it's not quite pushing into the tower yet. And now Steve is always going to be pushing forward in this lane.
Well, we did see the investment in Werlyb's future currently seems to be paying off. Jankos coming to help Steve just shove that wave into the lane, try to get it to reset and to bounce. And we'll see if that's going to get Steve any farm. We've shown how focusing Steve down can work. It's cost ROCCAT in the past.
And Jankos, in this last 5 minutes of gameplay, has actually been just very good with regards to his decision-making. He goes bottom lane when he knows there's an opening, now helps out Steve in the top lane, and Steve's actually going to go around and jungle with Jankos now because they just need to keep Steve out of that lane for a minute or so while the wave comes back towards him. But honestly, Jankos, he's a player that's been improving over the last couple of weeks and certainly looks to be on the same trend again.
So let's see what Jankos can do. Got an assist on the board, thanks to that gank down bottom. And this is the first time we've had a good look at the middle lane. PePiiNeRO went back for an early tier. If memory serves correctly, Power of Evil, when he played it, he actually went back for an early Manamune, straight out. Yeah. Saved all the way up. So this is a slight departure from a build path we've seen.
Yeah, and it makes it very difficult now for PePiiNeRO to actually get that Manamune transformed earlier into the game because you don't have the ability to stack it with auto attacks. You're relying on your abilities, which before you have cooldown reduction are fairly moderate cooldowns. They're not particularly high, but certainly you're not stacking it very quickly. One thing for this Giants lineup they have to be a little careful of is they are stacking a lot of AD. It's not the Kog'Maw now dealing AP. They have to make sure that ROCCAT can't itemize a lot of armor very early on, otherwise this game may be a little more difficult for Giants to close out because they really only have Morgana and parts of Evelyn's kit that are going to be dealing magic damage.
There are a few auto attacks from Jax, but you're...
Yeah, I was going to say, thinking about it, there are a couple more from the Empower as well from Jax. He does
predominantly physical. And also all the poke that Giants are going to be putting down. The armor work up. But Adryh also went the Manamune into Iceborne Gauntlet after Blade. So he went blue build Ezreal last week. Could theoretically expect similar, helping PePiiNeRO out, landing out those piercing arrows over and over. But we'll see what he decides. It does look like he's gone to back, and here's the ingredients of your Manamune. So we're expecting more of the same, and we settled into the standard farming. I think a lot of praise to Steve. He's picked himself up 24 CS. Some of those will obviously be jungle creeps, so not quite worth the same level of gold that Werlyb's 24 effective CS has garnered. But you've got to do everything you can on that Rumble to get yourself back in the game and pray your equalizers are game-changing. Because he's not going to have the items for a little while.
and neither are Giants, though, to fight, is one of the things. They're now sitting on double tier. They're in their power trough and waiting for this game. And again, they picked a top laner that needs time. He needs basically 2 items. We saw him, we saw Werlyb start 1v1ing a Zed when he had a Bilgewater Cutlass and a Triforce. That's about the time that a Jax can start getting away with that kind of play, but it certainly depends on who he's trying to fight. So Giants need a little bit of time. ROCCAT shouldn't be giving them time in this game. They've got Lee Sin, they've got Rumble. They should be looking to go for a couple of fights around the first, second dragon, just to try and get Giants out of contention for this strong later game composition.
Yeah, we talk about the level of impact that Lee Sins have had, or rather not had. But last time Jankos played Lee Sin, he had a 54% kill participation, so it wasn't really him carrying the game, so to speak. We do see he's been involved in the only kill they've got on the board, so let's see if that window of opportunity, how much time he actually has. You do see the CS numbers, even in mid, even in AD carry. Obviously just that strong lead that Jax has built up. But the other thing we noticed when we watched Giants last week was just how much time they spent dilly-dallying about when SK was swapping lanes. Giants seemed a little lost in their early to mid-game decisions. They don't have the same challenges here because ROCCAT are actually just sticking to the lanes and saying, well, Steve, good luck. But well, we need to see how Giants focus themselves as we progress and as we start seeing some more pressure with more items.
Well, this game's a lot more straightforward for them. They don't have the, you know, the movement around the map that was a little bit crazy from last week's game. So Giants basically are going to sit in standard lanes for a while because you can see Werlyb is just constantly getting ahead. Bottom lane is ahead for Giants, and they have so much distance that Alistar should never really be able to get on top of them without using his flash. And even then, you just use that black shield, and it makes it very difficult for him. So Jankos doesn't exactly have a lot of options when it comes to lanes he can help at this point. So Jankos has to try and figure out his place on the map.
So there we go, Dyrus calling it out. Even though Steve died, played it well by not dying to the Eve camp. And for me, I would have been dead 3 times. At least you got a good sense of humor, Dyrus, but it's something that Stress also alluded to. Yes, Steve respected Eve's presence, but it has cost him 45 CS.
Yeah, but you kind of contrast that to if he had died, how much worse would the situation be? So I completely agree that he played it very well with regards to cautiously advancing in the lane. So certainly Steve has learned his mistakes from previous games, but Vander's on a roam into the enemy jungle and is clearing out a pink ward. This is not something that should happen all that much this early into the game, but certainly Jankos on the top side of the map makes it an easy read for ROCCAT to go out and clear.
Manages to work out in favor of ROCCAT. They secure that first pink ward kill. We'll see how they handle themselves if we just breach 10 minutes. Frederick picked himself up that Warrior Enchant skirmish. Warrior Enchant ranges for Jankos. And we see the first big item completed, the Morella Nomicon, in favor of Nukeduck's Azir. Obviously going that one. CDR on the mana. No mana means yes. So Giants, you know, I think they were happy. They're in that sort of slower early game that double tier gives you.
Yeah.
But ROCCAT's team composition cannot give them the same options that Origin had from the previous game.
That's the thing, though. As long as Giants don't get engaged upon, they're happy. They really need to just kind of sit here for a while. And that is kind of punishing ROCCAT the other side of the map, though, when you look at top lane. This is the highest CS difference at 10 minutes that we've had yet in summer. So at this point, Steve is under the pressure, but he's farming up now fairly well. Really what Steve has to do now is play around the teleports and around the fights and get himself down for the better equalizers. Question is, ROCCAT are getting so much deep vision. Are Giants ever going to get an opening for it?
Well, Giants do manage to evade the invade. That's what I was trying to say, but stumbled over all the vades. We did see Jankos throw out the Sonic Wave, but that was exactly what you were touching on, Stress. As long as Giants do not get engaged upon, they're in a decent enough position. We do see Steve left that top lane to pick himself up a Haunting Guise. And Werlyb is just getting a couple of auto attacks on the tower. Not that much damage yet, but he'll be happy. A Jax at 12 minutes with 100 CS and almost Trinity Force. Happy days.
When does he go full split push mode, though? That really is something that ROCCAT have to be careful of, because when he does, it's then on ROCCAT to either send somebody to stop him, which is unlikely the later it goes into the game, or just engage. And I think that's one of the things that's more difficult for this Giants composition, is the distance they can put between themselves and their opponents while still outputting damage is going to be shorter than with the Kog'Maw, as we already talked about.
So we did see Dragon secure. Giants reading the situation well, under absolutely no threat. Both teams average 2.5 Dragons a game. Giants on the board with their first. They've earned themselves a 1,000 gold lead thanks to the farm, thanks to the kill they've secured. And thanks to the patient gameplay that's working. But again, you know, both teams scale. You've also got to touch on the fact ROCCAT has had an uncontested mid lane. Woolite, yes, he's been farming against this Ezreal Morgana, but he's not bothered. This is Woolite that hasn't needed to be dancing around or carrying things yet, because he's just looking towards that Trinity Force himself.
One other factor for ROCCAT, though, is the fact that Nukeduck is just patiently farming himself up alongside PePiiNeRO, and we've seen Nukeduck on Azir once before, and it was a very impressive performance. He actually went 4-0 and 11 in that game, so it's been one of the games we've seen Nukeduck very well on, and it looks like they want to get him ahead now, because here comes Vander behind the turret.
Wow, very early flash and ghost from PePiiNeRO. Throws out the Chain of Corruption, and would you believe it, a Varus ultimate missing? I cannot believe that happened. But both summoners blown for absolutely nothing other than damage on Vander. Steve eats Agony's Embrace, flashes the moment Werlyb leaps in. Summoner spell blown.
Flash for flash top lane, and I don't think Steve will be too unhappy with that. There's been so much pressure on him up in this top lane, and he can just quite simply, as you see, throw his ultimate down, clear the wave out, back away, and he knows there's no dragon available, so it's not like Giants can really pressure down this turret without the fear of him teleporting in. So ROCCAT will be fairly happy with that, but certainly this is a very patient game to begin this series between, or this game between ROCCAT and Giants. And there were so many questions on people's mind about which team has improved the most. And I don't have any answers for them yet. It's even.
Yeah, we'll have to keep watching. One thing that has shown is Giants are at least reading the team comps and playing theirs, I think, slightly more effectively. You look at the Lee Sin from Jankos. He's been involved in 1 kill in 15 minutes on this heavily early game focused jungler. We look at the Jax Evelyn from Giants, the second time they've run this combination. And again, they get a first blood onto Werlyb's Jax. They did it last week, they did it this week. So great execution from Giants. They are going to be under some pressure on the top, but this is 3 melee champions coming up against Frederick and Werlyb. No Agony's Embrace. Werlyb's going to at least scare them away at the cost of some CS. Jankos, he's gone in. He manages to land on kick and follows through with the resonating strike. Frederick and Werlyb make their way out, but while all that was going on, Adryh, with his Manamune, with his Cutlass, secure the first tower of the game.
And that's what Adryh did all game last week, was just push towers. Until Jax was ready to take over from that mantra, it was just Adryh, always ulting the wave, always pushing through on this Ezreal, and GODFRED, as soon as that happens, starts to leave lane, and he's done it again here against Nukeduck, does catch him with the Dark Binding.
Yes, he does. Cleanse comes out from Nukeduck. So, Summoner spell down, again, trading. And that's one of the roams that GODFRED talked about. We actually had the video clip of his Morgana in the last 2 weeks. Doesn't result in a kill today. We did see PePiiNeRO. He's also back for BF Sword and Long Sword. I believe Werlyb is sitting on enough gold to complete his Zeal. Not enough just yet.
Not too long.
It won't be too long away. I think next time he backs, he'll wrap that up. But look at the vision on the top half of the map from ROCCAT. Really, really strong ward play. It did get them the tower a few moments ago, so we'll see if it can equate to any more plays in the coming minutes.
Well, basically now they just have to invert it and do that on the bottom side for this dragon. Stop Giants from getting themselves surrounded on that on the dragon. But yeah, the vision play has been pretty good. They've been up against an Evelyn, but quite frankly, Frederick's just spent almost all of his time top lane. So, I mean, ROCCAT, 3 guesses as to where Frederick has is going to be on the map, because normally it's pressuring Steve out. But Steve has picked himself up a needlessly large rod. Still about 30 CS down, but he should start collecting a little bit more of that once his duty becomes to collect waves at towers.
And for Steve, considering the early game pressure, he's almost hitting level 11. He's got the rod, he's got, there we go, rank 2 in his ultimate now. So all of that early sort of gains that Giants have built up, it's just equated to the 1,000 gold lead. And they're still going to have to play these team fights effectively. One thing I do want to highlight, in respect to the previous 4 games, ROCCAT had actually placed 43 green wards to the 21 of Giants. Now, of course, the average game length does come into effect for that particular, statistic. But overall, ROCCAT are warding a higher amount than Giants.
And I actually feel that's because Giants tend to ward less overall rather than ROCCAT warding more. We spoke about that in the SK game last week, is that Giants notoriously can get baited into fights, into areas they don't have vision, because they're not quite so stringent on actually securing vision ahead of time and then moving around the map. Whereas, look at what ROCCAT have done. As we said, invert from top side to bottom side now. They've got pink wards down, they have wards around the river. A couple still left to clear out, and yes, the Scuttle Crab vision is still there for Giants. Will be once this dragon spawns, but the fact of the matter is, Giants are going to struggle to push down here with the position of ROCCAT.
And of course, for ROCCAT, they're looking for team fights. That's what their team does best. Giants, they want to poke.
Ooh, they're boxed in, though.
The tower has been secured. There's Agony's Embrace on what I think was 3. True Shot Barrage flies across, and Steve manages to get the Equalizer down before getting down. Chain of Corruption catches on Vander, and he gets melted through the Unbreakable Will. And Nukeduck, he wants to pick a fight. Emperor's Divide doesn't really connect, but Frederick's in trouble. Woolite looking for a kill. He does get caught by the piercing arrow and is now in full retreat. Flash forward onto the Dark Binding. Adryh with the Mystic Shot, but Dead's going to follow up with the Arcane Shift. One more long-range skill shot, and Lozark is out of his chair celebrating. Giants lose Dragon, but get 3 kills.
Great fight for Giants, and honestly, it's what that composition can do right now. ROCCAT had completed the Dragon, but now you've got to try and escape against a composition that is just trying to line up poke, and you've only got that small entrance at the front of Dragon to escape through, and it's very easy for the Giants to start laying on damage from that point. Again, look, ROCCAT, they've got the Dragon at this point, but now you've got to get out past all of Giants. Nice ultimate out of Frederick to clip a good few people, and then Werlyb, as only Werlyb can do, had already teleported in a lot earlier to that fight. We talked about how good his teleport timings are. Jumps in with the Jax, gets a multi-person stun, and Nukeduck didn't quite hit the mark on that ultimate. And Giants, they re-engage on this and clean up, and this poke style is working so well for them right now.
What a confident play from GODFRED as well.
Yeah.
Newest member to the stage for Giants, respectively. And he manages to make the kill. Adryh, one last Mystic Shot. With those kills, managed to pick up those Ionian Boots of Lucidity, Blade of the Ruined King. We've still not seen PePiiNeRO back in a while. He's actually sitting on 2,800 gold. So we'll see what he decides to pick up. Well, blue buff stolen away, and Giants, they're now 3,500 gold ahead. That slow laning phase all of a sudden has just exploded. It was a Varus level 11/12 plus the help of a dragon. That's allowed Giants to take that lead.
Speaking of that Varus, so Power of Evil, when he was building Varus, was opting for cooldown reduction a little bit earlier into his build than PePiiNeRO is right now. You said he's on a lot of gold, and now he is backing. I'm interested. He's looking for, I guess, a BF sword, a Bloodthirster plus some cooldown reduction coming from this. Should be boots, I assume. Or, okay, he's just opting for flat damage and then penetration from it with a Last Whisper. But Steve, speaking of damage, is in trouble.
Steve, he's running, gets the Equalizer out, doesn't even matter. It was too little and too late, and Werlyb just Steve rolls him down.
Oh dear.
Well, we do see GODFRED. He's come in, but he's in trouble. Knocked under the tower. Nukeduck is trying to get away, but the Soul Shackles will catch him out. True Shot Barrage goes wide, and Adryh unable to follow up with a Mystic Shot this time. Jankos saves the day to secure the kill.
The roam from GODFRED didn't work out too well this time, cost him his life. But what is happening on the other sides of the map? Werlyb on his own in the top lane. ROCCAT have 2 players bottom lane in Woolite, Vander pushing down a turret, but they lose mid-turret in exchange for this. Giants are looking to come up huge from this. Werlyb, I don't think he quite cottoned on to Nukeduck being there at first. Ooh.
You can feel the pain there. Nukeduck almost takes him out. Chain of Corruption catches Vander, but he unbreakables those chains. Piercing arrows, Mystic Shot, Essence Flux, everything trying to catch him down. But Adryh does have that red buff, so if he can clip him with the skill shot, does not this time around, means Vander should be able to get away. You see Mystic Shot carries on chasing. Adryh's got a lot of mana. He gets the Pulverize, and Steve is teleporting in. He's on the board. He gets the double buffs, just the red buff rather. And that's a Steve double kill. Jankos now finds GODFRED, trying to catch him out. No Dragon's Rage yet. Wards hop forward. Tempest and Cripple should be up in a couple of seconds, and Jankos is just going to run him down, actually flashing for that one. As Jankos gets the kill, and Giants all of a sudden give up 3. As ROCCAT chased them down.
Yeah, that was a little overconfident, to be sure, from Giants there.
So Jankos, good KDA, despite not having the best team scoreline individually. Second highest according to that drop down.
Overconfident from Giants, and that's a bit of a problem for them when it comes to closing out this game, because now they've given Steve a couple of kills. He's still yet to complete a full item. Zhonya's is nearly there for him, but shutting down Steve was such a big part of this early game for them that would have allowed Giants to just get to this stage of the game very comfortably. Now that they're here, Steve is still going to be posing a problem around objectives with that equalizer. 1 minute until the dragon comes up, but I wonder whether Giants can complete any key items before they get that Iceborne Gauntlet a long way away for Adryh, so they'll still be able to be kited around by, you saw Vander going a long, long way down the lane there because there was no real slow coming out from Adryh.
Well, Mirror Mana has been upgraded for PePiiNeRO.
Okay, that's a teleport.
Giants are teleporting in for Baron.
Yeah.
ROCCAT are going to slow to react. Look, Woolite's in the bottom half of the map. Giants with a super confident play. The problem here, Stress, is Jankos is around. He does have Smite. He's got caught out by the Chain of Corruption. Baron's been secured, but Giants are low. Steve is looking for more. The Equalizer went in the pit, and he wasn't able to get more. Jankos jumps in, and he manages to land the roundhouse kick to the head of Frederick. But Giants got Baron and peeled away with 4 alive.
They peeled away, but that was a little precarious from Giants' perspective. A good call though, managing to get it. They have very good single target damage, but they just need to stem this flow now from ROCCAT, who are pushing into a turret. If they only give 1 turret here, they should be absolutely fine with that kind of trade here. And that is in fact all that goes down. So Giants will be happy with that. And now Werlyb, not only is he going to be able to split push a little bit, but now he has Baron on top of that. It's going to be very difficult for ROCCAT to actually engage.
Great play from Giants. You saw the Baron stats, only securing 3. This will be number 4 as Werlyb jumps onto Nukeduck. We see the cleanse coming out once more. Mystic Shots being fired. True Shot Barrage is available. Adryh missed the last one onto Nukeduck. Throws the second one. This time it connects, but the body blocking reduces the damage. Giants continue to chase, and they've got Baron-empowered minions, and they've got a tower right in front of it.
Really interesting from Werlyb. He's actually changed up what he did from this week, from last week. Last week opted for the Blade of the Ruined King, which was for 1v1ing people. Now he's got a Frozen Mallet. That seems to me as if he wants to just slow people in the fights and allow PePiiNeRO to just land Q after Q. And if that works for Giants, or if they can get Jax into a fight and attacking people, that will work for Giants. The problem is, ROCCAT are going to be fairly confident in fighting for themselves.
Well, Werlyb's got knocked up. Woolite did get caught by the Dark Binding. Steve throws down the Equalizer. We see the Nomad's Medallion, or the Talisman of Ascension, movement speed, getting Werlyb out alive. But Giants, they pulled the attention bottom lane. They secured the inner middle turret. There's only 1 non-base turret remaining for ROCCAT. That was the one that Giants were sieging down bots.
So interestingly, you can see how Giants were moving away from that fight, and that's something that they're going to want later and later into this game. The ability to kite back with Varus is actually one of the things that makes him incredibly strong, is if ROCCAT are chasing into Giants, Varus basically gets a free ult on whoever is trying to engage, because they can only come towards you, and trying to dodge that skill shot is a lot harder at that point. So Giants, if PePiiNeRO was there, would probably have looked for a re-engage. The fact of the matter was, Werlyb was very low from that fight, and PePiiNeRO wasn't there.
So we'll see if PePiiNeRO can combo those hail of arrows with Adryh's now completed Iceborne Gauntlet. Last Whisper picked up for PePiiNeRO, and he did eventually get some CDR in those Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Hourglass is completed for Steve, for Nukeduck. Triforce and Blade of the Ruined King for Woolite. So some big item breakpoints have been reached. But Giants at 27 minutes maintain a 4,000 gold lead. They maintain a tower lead. However, they are behind on Dragons, which I feel you expect when you're against an Azir, Rumble, Alistar, who can do very well in those team fights.
Yeah, you would somewhat expect that. But honestly, a lot of this gold lead is stemming from PePiiNeRO having a gold lead, CS lead in mid lane when it comes to it, and a CS lane lead for Werlyb in the top lane that has kind of stayed true throughout the entire game. So Giants have been giving the farm over to their solo laners very effectively in this game, and you can see how much damage each of them is able to do right now. And again, Werlyb over in a side lane is looking to push into Steve.
Does not have teleport, keep that in mind, whereas Steve does. That could be impactful.
Ooh, I was going to say Werlyb probably doesn't want that fight, but you can see exactly how Werlyb wants to play this, is that if Steve teleports out, with the wave already pushed in, Werlyb gets an inhibitor. So, yes, they can teleport out and get the fight, but Werlyb will deal too much damage for ROCCAT to hold on to.
Well, we did see Woolite gets caught out there by that little dark binding, but it was at max range. Everybody else from Giants was able to respond. Giants have lost their Baron buff. They've sieged. They managed to get one tower out of the deal. And now they're looking to get on that inner turret, but Azir's wave clear and the range from Woolite with that Bio-Arcane Barrage is managing to keep the waves at bay. So ROCCAT, they're digging deep, they're holding on. They're doing what ROCCAT have done for most of 2015 actually. Fall a little bit behind, but become very scrappy in the mid game and force their opponent's hand really, really hard to try to press any lead or get any further on the map.
Still though, I think you can see a marked improvement to some extent from both of these teams. It's a little bit slower than we've seen Giants and ROCCAT play. Interesting for ROCCAT though, they're on the shoe is on the other foot for them this time around. Last week it was them with the lead against the Unicorns. This time ROCCAT are having to play from behind. And we're getting late game, which should in theory mean Woolite's Kog'Maw is a very strong power, or it's a force to be reckoned with really for ROCCAT. Again, it's all on his positioning, and I feel like a bit like a broken record saying that, but there's a reason it's being said, is that we've seen Dark Bindings already land on Woolite. Yes, they're at max range, but not if that happens again in a fight, it should very well be the end for ROCCAT.
So PePiiNeRO's just picked himself a BF sword to go with the pickaxe. If that ends up being a Infinity Edge, he's gone for an AD carry in the mid lane, not necessarily being entirely poke focused. We do see Vander, he's in trouble. That's going to be a dead cow in a moment or two. The Void Ooze is going to slow Giants down, and actually Vander's going to flash out to safety. The True Shot Barrage was a little early, and the Piercing Arrow so close. Unable to get a kill this time round. The Chain of Corruption, that was a bit opportunistic from PePiiNeRO, but it allowed Werlyb to get the tower. They threw everything at Vander, and they got an objective out of the trade.
Oh, the Azir tower came up just in time to deny Giants from pushing off this easily as well. Oh, Woolite cannot afford to take that kind of poke at this point. Giants are going to be able to push this down, but every time they make a move like this, Werlyb is getting work done at the other side of the map. You have to be careful of Jankos looking for the engage, though.
Wow, he tried the Dragon's Rage kick, but Frederick, he had the black shield. He wasn't going anywhere. Nukeduck slides all the way forward with the Conquering Shifting Sands. We do see Summoner Heal was used to keep him alive, and Vander is the one that eats the Dark Binding. PePiiNeRO secures the kill as Giants peeled away. And we do see Steve down in the bottom lane trying to push Werlyb out.
He got
Chain of Corruption catches Woolite! Catches Woolite! And Woolite is potentially going to cost his team a Baron. Giants immediately turn away, and Werlyb's making his way up there as well.
At this point, though, the Giants, they know that they can just continue this again and again, and as long as Jankos didn't get that engaged, speaking of Jankos, he's caught.
That looked like it hurt. Nukeduck, though, he fancies a piece. Nukeduck and Steve are alive, both with their ultimates.
Again,
wise, Giants back away. However, Dragon secured.
Yeah, Werlyb is every single time that Giants are just doing this play where they just stand there and catch somebody out basically for free. Werlyb is just getting everything the other side of the map, and ROCCAT aren't addressing it. You saw Jankos try and get the engage. He couldn't get into the backline for a good enough engage, and GODFRED's making that even more difficult by the fact that he's Morgana again and can just use the black shield. So it's very tough for ROCCAT to actually start these engages just because of how much poke that Giants have.
Very well played from Giants. They've been patient. They've been controlled. They've not really put themselves in a position to be punished overly so. And when ROCCAT have looked for the engages, Giants have peeled away to deal with it. We did see Last Whisper picked up for Adryh, so those Mystic Shot's going to hit even harder. And some tankiness being picked up for Werlyb, so he's also becoming even more of a threat.
I'd really like to see Giants try and control vision a lot more, but it's made so much harder by the fact that as of yet, Frederick hasn't upgraded his trinket to the second tier sweeper trinket. They've also got 2 blue trinkets on themselves, so that means no extra wards or sweeping potential from the mid lane. So this is what leads to Giants having fairly few wards on the map, because the only person that can really ward is GODFRED and Frederick right now. So it's tough for them to actually shut ROCCAT out of the map completely.
It does seem to be working at least slowly for Giants. I mean, this is the team that was 3-1. Shock's mentioned on the analyst desk, and I think it was a sentiment that was shared by many, many people, that Giants may have been the weakest team coming into Summer Split. We couldn't have been more wrong. Could not have been more wrong, because they're showing up and they're putting, you know, really good performances together and in very different styles. They had aggressive team fight comps in weeks 1 and first game of last week, and now they've shown 2 games of very long-range passive poking. And they're showing they've got the coordination and the control to play it off. No teleport from Steve. Werlyb has it, so this could become a 5v4.
Here he comes into the fight as well. He on top of Nukeduck.
Well, Woolite and Nukeduck in trouble. Emperor's Divide is going to close off the river. But ROCCAT were forced to run away. Flash burned from Woolite. As now Werlyb has joined the rest of the team. It's given enough time for Steve to make his way here as well. And Jankos also looking for the flank.
That was a big teleport cooldown being used. Oh, Jankos.
Water hop over the wall. He's going to get away. True Shot Barrage have been used. The rest of ROCCAT, they're trying to push down the middle lane.
This is a really weird play, because now Giants are going to wedge them in 2. And as long as Giants don't get themselves surrounded completely here, there's no way ROCCAT can fight on one front.
It looked like Werlyb just got knocked backwards by Vander's headbutt. Nukeduck and Woolite cancel their recalls. They look to rejoin the 3-man ROCCAT squad. And the Dance of Barons number 3 continues.
This time, Giants are actually going to engage it. So, I mean, the problem they have here is they can't focus Baron and poke out ROCCAT. That's not something they can do both at the same time. You've got to pick one or the other, or ROCCAT are just going to be content to just sit here and just watch you get lower and lower against Baron and then engage as soon as you try and focus it. Yeah. Now Giants have to back off. ROCCAT have got control of their own jungle again for another couple of minutes, but Giants, honestly, all they've got to do now is the same kind of play again. Just whittle ROCCAT down again and again.
So you've seen, even with an 8,000 gold lead, Giants do not want to pick a team fight against the power of Azir and Rumble in those closed spaces. But we've also seen from Giants, they're not particularly strong at taking towers without the Baron. They've taken a very long time to clear that bottom inner turret. So it feels like the Baron bait play is the one they want to focus on. I want to draw your attention to the minimap, guys, because it looks like a secret Baron attempt is going on. You can see Adryh's in the pit. Steve and Jankos, they're aware of it.
Oh, the ward is not caught by the pink ward.
Doesn't seem to be.
Not so secret anymore.
They are in trouble. All of a sudden, the fight seems to be breaking out. Vander's Unbreakable Will's been popped, but Nukeduck is still in the middle lane, clearing it out. So ROCCAT able to thwart the secret attempts.
Jankos.
Well, let's see what happens. Frederick is trying to run Jankos down. He's going to flash over the wall. Still a little sloppy. ROCCAT's got some time to group, but Giants have put a lot of poke damage down, forcing ROCCAT.
Jankos is being fairly carefree when it comes to clearing out things like pink wards. He's treading the tightrope, but he's getting away with it. Giants aren't punishing him all that much, but Giants now having to deal with a big wave in the bottom lane. It got slow pushed into them, so PePiiNeRO is going to be the one to go down there and clear it, or is that going to be a True Shot Barrage?
Blue buff is worth more.
Oh, yeah, certainly it is necessary, but PePiiNeRO, I think there might have been a discussion on which one of them wanted that.
I can imagine so. But what we do know that since PePiiNeRO showed his hand down bottom, ROCCAT and other ones rushing. Take a look at this. Giants are very far away. There's only 2 members nearby. Frederick could flash over to try steal.
He got it!
He steals it! Frederick manages to show up big once more. Baron secured for Giants. Dark Binding goes wide. Werlyb, he's found targets. He manages to stun up Vander, but Steve and Nukeduck, they're sitting on the sidelines. Woolite is all the way in the top lane, trying to rejoin the rest of his team.
Oh, there we go.
The equalizer down. That melts Giants. We see GODFRED going low, but the Black Shield keeps him alive. Chain of Corruption catches no one, but ROCCAT get themselves 2 kills at the cost of only Vander's life. But Frederick stealing Baron. Giants again with the Baron steal, and now they're pressuring middle.
Last time it was against Elements towards the middle of last split, but this time it's against ROCCAT. They can't get too much more from it, but you can see Werlyb always active on the map. They know that Dragon is available. You can slow down ROCCAT a little bit more by picking up the 3rd Dragon of the game here. Will give the added mobility to the Giants, and that's one thing that they've been using to their advantage very well. Talisman of Ascension has been on GODFRED for quite a while now, but here's the steal coming from Frederick, and no, not blind. He had a ward in the back of the pit, or just in the nick of time from Frederick. As I believe that was, yeah, he managed to get that smite down, but from here, the re-engage from ROCCAT was actually fairly good. Yes, Steve got caught, but it's top lane. There's a catch.
Wow, the counter-strike from Werlyb managed to catch out 3. Mystic shot. It does tag Woolite, and the piercing arrow kills him. Jankos gets caught out by the Chain of Corruption, and Werlyb is going to stun up Nukeduck. Nukeduck goes golden, but goes down to the mighty Duck. The Pigeon has no power there. And the only man remaining is Vander. Giants with 4 easy kills and an uncontested inhibitor turret set their focus in the middle lane.
That could just be game here for Giants. It was a lot slower affair at this point than last week, but ROCCAT once again are just drawn into fights. We didn't see the build-up of why they were in the top lane, but it's cost them dearly.
It looks like they want to finish. They've got Baron-empowered minions and 2 cannon minions to work with. Vander's going to get focused by everybody as the rest of Giants are on the Nexus turrets. Giants open up the summer split with a 4-1 record, and they show that they are the real deal. I guess, you know, being the pair of blondies down bottom is working out for Giants. GODFRED still undefeated on Morgana. ROCCAT still looking to find the magical ingredient that will help their performance.
They certainly seem to be going Super Saiyan down in that bottom lane, because they are very, well, they look very uncontested in all of their games. There seems to be a lot of freedom being given to the Giants bot lane.
Yeah, let's be fair. Giants did get smashed by Origin.
Oh, true.
So the one loss that Giants have picked up was against, of course, the #1 team in Europe right now. Albeit they have 1 extra game on Fnatic, so I'm being a little pedantic here. But when Giants are playing, their play style is just so drastically different from Spring.
Yeah.
This game was a good example of control and patience decision-making. And there's Lozark, the coach on screen, talking to GODFRED, who we've heard him say he's involved in a lot of the calls. Definitely helping focus Giants' individual capabilities.
It's certainly not perfect from them yet, but the growth is there more than anything else. I think when you look at most improved teams, certainly Giants are the most improved team and the most changed when it comes to a positive way, but it's a really weird shift we've had in Europe now, where a lot of teams you'd expect to do not so good just aren't, or not so good are doing very well gelling as a team, but the other side of the coin is the lower table teams just are not looking quite as in shape as even teams like Giants are looking.
Definitely not. ROCCAT placed 8th in Spring, had to requalify through the promotion tournament. They're currently 1-4 in Summer. They did make a change to their roster. It's not working out. We look at Giants, on the other hand, who placed 9th in Spring, also had to requalify, changed their support, and in that game, Adryh dealt more damage than PePiiNeRO. You feel like Werlyb's Jax was played well. If anybody remembers a Giants versus SK match where they also ran a Jax top, but chose to team fight with him all the time, I believe the Jax was about 3-0 in that game, and he was like, I'll just go team fight. Now I'm not going to split push. They didn't make that mistake here. He was always in a side lane. He was always putting pressure on towers.
I kind of want to go back. You're talking about the change that ROCCAT made with regards to Steve. I actually don't think there's too much on Steve's shoulders when it comes to why the team perhaps aren't always looking so great. I feel like Steve has been focused so incredibly hard by every team that ROCCAT has played against. And yes, that gives a lot of freedom to Jankos and Woolite to get ahead, but it's becoming a big team effort that they now need to address this top lane. They need to start putting more focus up there because Steve cannot survive on his own when everybody else is in his lane.
Yeah, especially when you consider Frederick was camping there for so long. I mean, really, really such a lengthy period of time. But one interesting opening to week 3. You know, one of the big questions we had for this game was ROCCAT were looking better. And Giants, like we said, if you can perform for 3 weeks consistently, go 5-1 or put up really good games, then the question marks of, ooh, it was blips, ooh, it was opponents, that starts to fizzle away because now you're consistently showing up to be a top of the table team. Giants are definitely trending towards that because, again, a great control game. Slower pace, slower tempo. But you can't really challenge them for that.
Yeah, you can't challenge them. The one thing I would say, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the argument is getting weaker and weaker that I'm about to propose every single game is that Giants are doing this against teams that, in theory, they should be beating. Okay. When you look at how the table is playing out, they're yet to be tested against the team that they shouldn't be beating. We know that they have kind of done that before in the spring split, but certainly they are looking like a mid-table team. And that, you know, they said we're in this to make playoffs, and if they continue like this, then they are shoo-in for it.
This is the week that I find the most interesting because once we wrap up tomorrow's set of games, we're exactly a third of the way through the summer split, and then you can start to really get a feel on who belongs at the top of the table, who belongs at the middle of the table, and who belongs towards the bottom. For now, Giants have squarely set their flag in the top half of the table, and we're going to hear from a couple of the Giants members